my name is Nichola Humphreys. You can refer to me as she, her, and I will be your host for the GDL podcast today. And today we are joined by a good friend of mine and a fellow graduate, Jack. Jack, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience of GDL?
Hello, I'm Jack McPherson. I'm an associate content designer at Rockstar North, and I'm he, him. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. Thank you for being a part of the episode. So, before we start on our topic of conversation, I thought it'd be a nice way to get to know you, for the audience to get to know you by having an icebreaker question. So, my icebreaker question to you is: if you had to be part of any video game universe, what would it be and why?
That is a good question. I'm going to say Final Fantasy IX, just because of the environment, the setting, the characters. It's all just very out there, fantastical, and it's kind of like, for me, it's like the movie The Princess Bride, but in game form. And yeah, that'd just be a blast, I think.
To be fair, every game that comes out of Final Fantasy franchise is such a beautiful game.
Pretty much a home run, yeah, for each one you choose.
Well, that's brilliant, and I feel like that's a great choice. So yeah, our topic of conversation today will be a deep dive into our journey from being students studying game design to now being in the games industry. Because the audience that don't know, we went to the same course together and we graduated at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we'll
uh,
be going through applications, portfolios, interviews, and our onboarding process.
awesome.
So yeah, we can always start with applications. So when it came to applying for your roles, when did you say you started to send applications through?
I started a little bit before graduation, just because you want to be like, all right, I'm going to leave the course with a job. That's
Yeah.
the dream, right? Didn't work out that way. I think with a lot of graduates, there's going to be a steep learning curve with a
Okay.
steep learning
Yeah.
curve with yeah, how to kind of land that first role
Mm.
and applications and portfolios and all of that. It's a process.
Yeah, I remember when just before we graduated, I thought it would be a case of, oh, I'll apply for a couple of interviews and then I'll go straight into a job after I finish graduating. And to go back to what you said, it felt like a learning curve at first, and then it did turn into a learning curve because then
Yeah,
I realized what to do and what not to do when it came for applying for roles.
yeah, definitely. I 100% agree with that. Couldn't have said it better myself.
So, how did you find the overall application process? Like, what did you find good and what did you find bad about it?
I think there's a lot of common mistakes that graduates make when kind of applying for those first roles. And
Mm-hmm.
one thing, and it is kind of, you're desperate for a job, so you want one, so you kind of apply for everything. And your portfolio and CV and cover letter might not be suited for everything, so you're immediately going to get a lot of no's for the stuff that you just aren't ready for.
Mm.
Uh, I hear it quite a lot, and yeah, this is just my personal opinion. But a lot of people applying for like roles above junior when now having been in the role, like if you're new to the industry, you're never going to get those roles. Uh, they are there's a lot required of just a flat out regular designer, let alone a junior.
Yeah,
So you'd need a hell of a portfolio to back that up if you're just starting in the industry.
yeah,
Personally,
because yeah, I remember when we were applying as well that there was like when it came to industries replying back to my applications, they would often say, "Oh, we would like to see stuff that isn't your university work because
mm.
we want to see that you can do stuff outside of a time frame or just what you can do with your own brief."
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think having work outside of, if you are a graduate, I think you need work outside of the course because then it shows you aren't just willing to do the bare minimum.
Yeah,
Uh, it shows that you're genuinely interested in this and you've pursued this because you care about it, not because you want a grade.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I I noticed that you said cover letters earlier. So when it came to cover letters, what is some advice that you would give to students or just people in general who are currently applying for positions and who are currently writing cover letters?
Yeah, so my cover letters went through a lot of different iterations. I think when I first graduated, it was very much, I made a few games and I love what you guys make, Ubisoft or whatever company I'm applying for, and it's very comes across as super disingenuous and like
Mm,
I just want a job. Uh, I think the main things you want to hit with a portfolio is your experience as a game maker. Like, what have you done?
true.
Talk about it. Talk about what you've learned. Um, why you think you'd be good for their kind of company. Like, do a bit of research on them. Like,
Hmm.
say, don't just be a fanboy. Say, I want to join you guys because you do this super well. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Say it's Ninja Theory, and you'd be like, you guys have a really great way of tying narrative with melee combat together, and I love that.
Yeah, I
And
mean
I want to be
that's
a
a
part
great example.
of that.
Yeah, because
So
yeah, sorry, go on.
no, just essentially like you want to show them that you're invested in them, not just a fan, because they have lots of fans. They're not after they. It's a plus if you're a fan of the work you're making, of course, but that isn't the requirement to do it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, I remember my first few cover letters, I would essentially fan over that company to be like, oh, I love this game, this character's great, like the narrative behind these games are awesome, but I would never actually fan over the position that I'm applying for in that company. It would just be like, oh, this game is great, and everyone loves it, including me.
I think also just highlighting where your skill sets are. Like,
Yes.
I'm familiar with X game engine
Mm,
because if you can just say that, oh, I can use Unreal and Unity, that immediately makes you more kind of approachable than someone who isn't talented in one of those. So yeah, just every little skill that you've gathered probably has some use in your cover letter.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And even if you're not applying for roles that you think would suit mentioning Unreal or Unity, for example, it's still good to write down because I've noticed that in some roles, even if they're 3D artist roles, there's always an optional tab that says, oh, it would be great if you knew how to use these engines. So
Mm.
even if you're writing a cover letter to be a programmer or something, it's always good to note down the skills that you do have because you never know when they might come in.
Also, kind of just speaking about experience with those engines. Like,
Mm.
I'm pretty well versed with Unity at this point, uh, but Unreal, I I think the term I learned for it was my working experience with an engine.
Yeah.
So I'm learning an engine essentially, but working experience kind of says that I've got some experience. I haven't just started, but I'm getting to grips with this, which
Yeah.
again shows that you're willing to learn something new. So
Mm.
if it's a junior role, it might be a case of, well, we can have someone go over the core things with you. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. And like with junior positions, it's always about learning. So even just
Hmm.
writing stuff in the cover letter, even like a footnote that says, oh, and I'm always up for learning anything, like anything you throw my way. I feel like that's always a good sign for employers to say, like, oh, even if they don't know how to use Photoshop, for example, we could always teach them.
True. And just hitting on what you said there, I think showing that you have a willingness to learn, even though you've finished like uni,
Mm.
you should always be trying to better yourself
Oh, for
because
sure.
the people above you are, the people below you are, like everyone's trying to improve themselves in some way.
Mm.
So the fact that you can showcase, well, I'm still on this journey,
Mm.
and I just want to go on that journey with you. I think that really helps your applications.
Yeah, yeah. And it just goes to the saying, like, you learn something new every day, whether it's like you learn how to spell a new word or like you learn a new engine. Like, the fact that you learn something is always a great thing.
Yeah, and I think one of the requirements for my role was it wasn't a requirement, but it's like if you know visual scripting, that'd be great. And I have a little bit
Mm.
since finishing uni. Like I saw in a lot of job roles, and this is kind of just helpful advice for anyone who's just been learning programming. If you want to be a designer, it's not a code heavy role.
Mm-hmm.
It is a lot of documentation, and the prototype side of it normally is going to be visual scripting. because they don't want you touching raw code.
Yeah.
And visual scripting is node based, so you can't really screw it up. So yeah, just kind of dipping your toe in those kind of pools, super handy, and it just opens up the job pool for you because then you can apply for roles that require that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And like even just sending them to open applications is a
Yeah,
great way as well.
100%. Yeah, I sent so many open applications for just design roles. I got a few good responses, nothing concrete, but
Mm.
I landed it eventually. That's the important part.
And would you say that people should write open application cover letters separate to specialized roles, such as like a game designer or a 3D artist?
Yeah, I think every cover letter should be unique
Mm-hmm.
because every studio is different.
For sure.
They're going to be making different games regardless of who you apply for. They're going to approach it in a different way, and they're going to have different values each studio. So definitely tailor your cover letters to everywhere you go.
Mm.
And with an open application, it wouldn't hurt just because you're saying, well, do you have a job? Like, just I would probably tailor it towards the kind of job you want,
Yeah.
uh, better than just saying, hey, give me a job.
Yeah.
I'm really talented in all these things. Pick one for me, because every company wants someone who is driven towards their field. It doesn't help you if you see, like, say, Splash Damage are hiring. They have 10 open vacancies. Don't apply for them all.
No.
Just apply for the ones that you can actually do, and you'll come across better because they might notice this,
Mm.
and then you're all of a sudden not going to be considered because they just know you just want a job, and you don't want that job.
No,
So
that's
it's
fair.
it's important to aim where you're going.
Yeah, no, that's totally understandable. And yeah, like you said, you shouldn't really be applying for everything, even if like you think it's a good idea, because yeah, it might come across that you're not too needy as such, but it just a little bit what's the word? Just a little bit too eager.
Yeah, needy kind of crosses that as well,
Yeah.
I think. So I need a job, and to be fair, like I get the feeling of wanting to do that
Hmm.
because you want a job when you're finished. You spent X amount of years studying for this. Of course, you want it. You just have to be smart about it.
For sure. Yeah, and I even found myself sometimes when writing cover letters for applications or just like writing the applications themselves, just doing a copy and paste template and then replacing the job title with another job title or the company with a different company. And it wasn't until that I started to customize them to specific roles and really think about what I was writing that I started to get more responses.